Hi, this is Rick Frederick with the third part of this review of Ceci and Bruck's classic text on children's testimony. So in Chapter 9, they review some of the data about the effects of repeated questioning. Again, now repeated questioning suggests to children that you weren't happy with their first answers in a single interview. Across interviews, it may not mean that directly, but what does it mean and what is the effect without respect to what it means? Children may be questioned up to 12 times in a single investigation. That wouldn't be unusual at all. Just think about just getting to a forensic interviewer in the first place. How many people have asked the children about things, teachers, parents, police officers, so forth. And so one of the things that happens as interviews are repeated, so is the length of time between what actually happened and the interview, which means what? Is that the original memory trace weakens. And then because memory is constructive in nature, there's the opportunity for intrusions to infiltrate the memory system. So when asked for free recall, both children and adults remember more with repeated interviewing. But they also become more inaccurate over time. Now, what if your interview is not neutral and unbiased, but is suggestive? Well, that's even more opportunity for intrusions. It's very understandable for people to repeat questions just to confirm. I want to understand what you told me about this. Sometimes, however, that questioning is beyond confirmation, but it's sort of a push to nudge children into certain directions. And sometimes you can easily see that questions are repeated until interviewers get the answers that they expected or wanted to hear. This does not escape children. When young children are asked the same question more than once within an interview, they change their answers. And how do children see adults? As cooperative partners. So they're expecting that there's a reason that the adult is asking them essentially to change their answer, and they do so because they want to be cooperative. So if you repeat an interview, what turns out to be true is that open-ended questions have little effect, positive or negative. But yes/no questions, specific questions, are often associated with change. So an open-ended questioning may signal, hey, I need more information, but repeated specific questioning may signal that the first response was not acceptable. So you need to change the answer is the cue. Okay, so let's see what else. So we've already said this, that what we're really interested in is the reduction in accuracy. Okay, Chapter 10, Suggestive Interviewing. What is that? Well, I mean, some types of these interviews are called incriminating interviews, where there is a message communicated to the child that the person that's being asked about is a bad person. They may even say, we have him in jail, you're safe, we are going to get him. Hopefully, in people who have been trained in forensic interviewing, this sort of thing doesn't happen, but it's more along the lines of a bias on the part of the interviewer. So it's best for interviewers to be actively engaged in evaluating whether they are biased, whether they are trying to find certain information about a certain person, or whether they're open to rival hypotheses. So when interviewers incriminate, children give more negative judgments about the suspect. And this has been shown many times. What are some other suggestive interviewing besides these incriminating interviews? Well, just selective positive reinforcement. So leaning forward and smiling when children say things that you want them to say, and not smiling, sitting back, sitting stiffer when they say things that are not consistent with your hypothesis. I mean, anybody can tell. Children can tell what your emotional responses are. So a good interviewer is trained to be neutral and to provide positive reinforcement for effort and not the content of the questions. Chapter 12, Anatomical Dolls. I'm really not aware how often the dolls are used anymore, but are they good diagnostic tools? And the answer, these things are awful, should not be used. Therapeutically, maybe you can justify a reason, but forensically, you cannot. There's no scientific support for the use of dolls to improve diagnosis of whether child abuse or sexual abuse has occurred. It just adds a lot of noise. Okay, what about recalled sexual abuse later in life? So forgetting is normal. We all forget things, and we all have had the experience of remembering things that we had forgotten about, in often very sharp detail. But sometimes what is true is that what we recall was actually never in our memory. It was never stored, but it's inferred on the basis of what we have in front of us, which would be scripts about how things work, stereotypes about people, semantic knowledge or understanding about how things work. And we make these inferential leaps in our memory and say, oh, that must be what happened. Yes, that's what happened. And we can't tell that apart from a memory of an actual event. And that's a problem. So everyone, any age, becomes very confident about their memories, whether they're accurate or inaccurate. And you may be the exception or think you're the exception, but the truth is that when these things can be objectively validated, we are all vulnerable to this effect of equating confidence with accuracy. Now, a suppressed memory would be not something that we can't access, but we have chosen not to dwell on it because it's too unpleasant, creates emotions that we don't want to experience. It's embarrassing to us. Repression is a different idea. And there it says that there's some unconscious process that keeps things out of awareness. This is what our superego protecting us, or our ego, I guess it would be our ego protecting us, an ego defense mechanism to keep things out of consciousness. Whether that actually exists or not depends on your belief system about personality development and so forth. Some people would argue that repression is a construct that has no validation. Dissociation refers to disconnection of memories from each other. And dissociation is not uncommon at all. I mean, it's very common in PTSD to have dissociation of memories from one another. So parts of the memory might not be integrated. And so then you're very cautious about attributing any accuracy to memories that come up in that. It's common for perceptual systems to narrow focus when we have a traumatic event. Memory experts are skeptical of highly detailed, vivid, coherent memories of early abuse. A lot of reasons to doubt that. And memory experts doubt that there are a special class of memories that are impervious to decay. So we have every reason to be skeptical about claims of recovered memories, because what usually turns out to be true is that they have been shaped by some sort of therapeutic intervention, all maybe with good intent to try to get you to come to grips with certain things in your past. But these memories have been shaped to take on characteristics that are otherwise not seen for others. So suggestion is a real problem in delayed recall of childhood sexual abuse. What is source monitoring is the capacity to keep track of how your memories developed, where certain things were experienced, what were the circumstances. Source monitoring confusions can be the basis of suggestibility effects. And again, this goes to script knowledge. If you say, well, I heard this from my dad, and then this is how my dad was, now you're working off of a script and saying, well, my dad must have done it like this because he wouldn't have done it like this. Or, my mom would have done it this way because that's how my mom is. So, and especially since 1995, when Ceci Bruck published this book, the literature on how to create false memories has flourished and is rich. So you shouldn't have any trouble at all finding examples of how to create so-called long-forgotten memories. Okay, well, and then next part of Ceci Bruck's book on age differences. And even preschoolers are capable of accurately recalling much that is forensically relevant. This is the important idea to keep in mind, is that when it's untouched by intrusions, repetition, suggestibility, source monitoring errors, if you can get information quickly before there's been delay, before there's been rumors or other suggestions, even preschoolers are capable of recalling forensically relevant information. We would want to hear from them at testimony. But when you begin to introduce techniques that are incriminating, suggesting, biasing, then you can distort the whole memory process. If you use an open-ended neutral technique, even multiple sessions should not distort memories. All right, what else here? Children are generally accurate when they're interviewed by a neutral examiner with few leading questions. And then let's just go on. Chapter 16, mechanisms that may account for age differences. Well, just a context for understanding the world would be the first. How do you develop scripts? Well, scripts develop with age. You begin to learn how things should happen, this agent-actor-action routine. Here's a person acting in this role, doing this sort of thing. What comes next? That knowledge comes with age. Then linguistic comprehension limits children. They can't talk about what they can't express. That increases as age increases. Social factors. What happens? How do children develop in their view of adults as time goes by? Well, children lie, of course. We already know this. You don't need science to know that children lie and why. We have all lied, and we all know why we have lied. Sometimes just to get something that we want, but we're sensitive to the demand characteristics of a situation. We know what's expected of us. We know what we're, sort of pressed to believe or to say. There is no effective argument that children are incapable of lying. All right, so the last chapter reviewed is Chapter 17, Ethical and Professional Issues. Some expert witnesses do what? They really come in and educate fact finders. They don't evaluate the children. They come in and talk about the social science research, and they would not generally have contact with the children. They might review the tapes of interviews. They might come in and say what the literature says, and hopefully they'll be somewhat prudent and guarded in making direct applications to the case that they're in with respect to what actually happened. The model expert has thoroughly reviewed the pertinent literature. And then some people come in and talk about whether their demeanor is consistent with that of having been abused. That's different than this model expert witness. Okay, so just some summaries. There's reliable age differences. Children do make mistakes. You can do things, actions to reduce suggestibility effects. Interviewers who are neutral, patient, non-judgmental can elicit the most accurate records, and the best experts will explain the complex interrelationships among the factors affecting children's accuracy.